Hello and welcome to the Good Imaginations podcast. Tonight we will journey to the swamp, where you can unwind, reorient yourself, and if you would like, fall fast asleep. Before we begin our adventure, make sure you're settled. If you are seated, get comfortable. Listen to your spine and relax your shoulders. If you are lying down, get your covers and pillow where you want them. Create your nest. Very good. Now, take 3 deep breaths with me in preparation for the journey ahead. Let go of your day and travel to a vacation for your mind. Imagine with me. See, smell, and be present. Breathe with me now. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Slow and even. 1, 2, 3. Very good. Now, shut your eyes and let's drift off to the site of tonight's adventure. Bubble and squeak, bubble and squeak. You pause and you listen to the noise. It's a soothing sound, a gentle frothing. It is the sound of your swamp, and you love it. You live in a crooked house. It's small and wooden with 2 floors, and while it is solid and tight and cozy, it is built at odd angles, quirky and irregular, so that people passing by might think it's the cottage of a witch. The chimney is made of stone. The windows are round and painted green. You have window boxes under every window, and they burst with tiny pink herbs that smell like sandalwood and rum. Most people stay away from swamps. That's why it's all the better, in your opinion. You don't mind going down to the market. You don't mind seeing friends or going to festivals down in the town. But for you, in your life, down where you feel most at home and most yourself and most free, well, you want space. It quiets you. This swamp quiets you. It is your home. The swamp is lush with moss and peat and wild trees. People are always saying unfavorable things about swamps, calling that brownish-green color swamp green, or talking about swamps as though they smell foul. Neither of those things are true of your swamp. The trees are fresh and healthy, with a tangle of witchy limbs, and Spanish moss hangs in droves from the tops. Green cobwebs, that's what it's like. Then there's the bog, the swamp itself. That's all pure water, cool and clear, and it's full of frogs and fish and small ducks and strange eels with glowing eyes that live happily together in the privacy of the bog. And the bog is private, because it's covered everywhere in a thin layer of peat, like a fashionable wrap that hides the animals and their reedy homes. The peat isn't foul or clogged or scummy. It's bright, the color of fresh pea pods, and sometimes it even sparkles in the light. In spite of all this, in spite of the whispery Spanish moss that hangs from the trees, in spite of the creak of the ancient branches, in spite of the fluting calls of birds, people still think the bog is strange, unusual, not quite right. Well, fine then. Let them have their useless grass lawns that don't grow food for anyone. Lawns that they peck at like an angry bird to root up the weeds and the bugs and the natural order of things so they can appear to be, what exactly? Exactly the same as everyone else? You don't understand it. You really don't. It's times like these that you take your feathery old hammock and you hang it between your house and a tree, and you sway over the bog and you smoke your pipe. It's a good place, this. It is a bit ornery, and so are you. You love to feel that no one else completely understands this place except for you. You feel like the guardian of the swamp, the keeper of the swamp, like an old spirit who lives in a tree. You're not an old spirit, but you like to feel like one. Sometimes people don't make sense to you. In fact, sometimes they horrify you. But this swamp makes sense. It doesn't trouble you. and you don't trouble it. And you have this strange sense that the swamp accepts all things, and listens to all things, and doesn't judge the ugliness in anyone. How can it? It is a bit of an ugly thing itself. You decide to get on with your day here in the swamp, so you set about your next task. With the wonderful scent of the bog in your nose, like seaweed, you think, or the smell of the Spanish moss, you begin to plant. You have 16 clay planting jars lined up on your rough wooden table. Sunlight comes in through the large window and glows on them. All your windows are open, and you enjoy the feeling of the outside being inside, that your home is only an extension of the great outdoors. You have a large bag of earth on your table, and you begin the planting process with joy. You line up the jars into a perfect square, each rim nesting against the next rim. Then you shake the fluffy, sweet-smelling soil down into the pots. The soil is dark and fragrant, spongy and light. Swamp soil, of course, the best stuff in the world. You enjoy the feeling of the warm sun on your back as you set down the heavy bag and begin to arrange the soil inside the pots. It covers the edges of your fingers, and you think to yourself that there is nothing purer than soil on fingertips. A purely good feeling. A kind of cheerful filthiness that washes off the filthiness of your spirit, makes you feel clean again, like nature has purged you with its goodness. You take tucks and fingerfuls of soil here and there until each pot is even, halfway filled. Then, into the base of soil you have gathered, you tuck bulbs, one bulb at a time. Soon they will become flowers, scarlet and smelling of incense. Each bloom a flame of intense red. You take deep satisfaction in covering each bulb, tucking them into a new spilling of soil. Last but not least, you water each one gently with cold well water from your clay pitcher, the handle smooth against your fingers. Then you leave the plants to rest, right there on the table, in the slant of the sun. You like slow things, simple things. You know you're going to feel a thrill when the first head of green pokes through the dark soil. You step outside and you take a deep sniff. Oh, you love being wild. The thistled tangle of your swamp reminds you of the thistled tangle of yourself, and that you are perfectly splendid just as you are. No hothouse flowers here, no perfect angles, no green trimmed grass. Just madness and spunk and bubbles. Swamp bubbles. The very best kind.